folks, and welcome to the December edition of Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway. And we're going to look at a couple of things this time. There's not a lot to update you on from the last video, but I can show you what I've done, which is not much. Okay, let's have a look. I've fitted here a background for the town that's going on Bamford, and that extends up to the end of the baseboard there. And you'll notice also that there's a little building there. We'll have a look at that more closely in a minute. Yeah, so this is made up from a big panoramic background, and it's cut up and sort of changed around a bit. Also, this building here was sent to me by a guy here in Australia quite a few years ago. So it's all been sort of blended and merged and adapted. This is the first building I've made for the town, and this was originally a super quick kit, and it would have been all brown brick here, and totally different shape, because you can see it's just a box really. But originally this building had an annex which sort of came out the back here, about the same distance again, so it was quite a big building actually. So consequently, when I've modified it, I needed to take the annex off to fit it in to the town scene here more easily. So once I decided to modify the building, what had happened was that there was a big hole in here for the annex to stick out from, and so this is actually the rear annex wall, which has had its roof section, which was on here. It's had that cut off, and it's just been fitted over here. And then consequently, instead of using the original roof, I just cut out a new roof panel to fit on there. I wanted to get the pebble dash look on the building, so what I've done is I did one coat with white paint over the brick, and it was a poster paint actually, and which is quite thick, and that was put on with a stippling action, and then it was smoothed out with a sponge. And then the second coat, I added some yellow to the white, some acrylic, and it got this creamy appearance to it. And on the third coat, I toned down the cream colour, and I added some very fine sand to the paint and put it on again, all with the stippling motion. And so it's all around the building, all over. So it's totally changed the look of the building, and so yeah, and so it sort of fits in better, I feel, with the town scene background that I've put up there. This roof was done with slate strips. They were quite a light colour to start with, and then once the roof was in place and everything was nearly finished, I suppose, it was weathered with pastels and etc. There's blacks and greys and a bit of white and green in there to sort of give the weathered look on the roof. The chimneys are original to the kit, however the chimney pots are made out of rivets. I've also added guttering here and downpipes to finish it off, and the windows have had some treatment where I've put some curtains in the windows, and then let's just zoom down on that a bit more. I'll put some curtains in the windows, and I don't know whether you can see it, but yeah, there's a room background which is stuck behind the curtains, and it sort of gives it a bit more depth. So, and also the building is lit, so there's lights over the two shops here. There's a light in there, and the top floor I actually inserted a floor in here to strengthen the building, but also to separate the light from the bottom floor and the top floor. So in the top floor here there's an amber LED which lights it up with a nice sort of glow, and you can see with some still pictures that I'll be putting up that you can see the effects of it, and you can also see the lighting and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that took about a week, that's all, that one, off and on, not spent all the time doing it, but yeah, it took about a week. Yeah, so there's more shops to come in here, a whole heap of shops to add in here. I've already started a second one which has been modified a bit already, so we'll probably see that next video. Also, I've changed my mind about the loading dock over on the left here. Initially I was going to have a loading dock over behind those wagons and an industrial building. The loading dock, I've sort of given up on that idea, and I think I'll probably do a dairy over there. I'll download the Scale Scenes low relief dairy and put it in over there, so that seems to be a better option. The other thing that's changed is my train detection unit in the back room here, and also out in my workshop out behind the camera there. I had basically an open read system which was working pretty well, but as time went on I was starting to get issues coming into it, and basically the most common issue was, and I think this is due to a mismatch of possibly metals, I suppose. It's certainly not current, there's not much current going through them. What was happening was that occasionally you'd get the wire lifted up by the magnet, and I had 3 staples on each reed switch to retain the wire. So the idea was that the wire lifted up, made contact with the staple, created, it's the switch really, and turned on an LED. Well, what was happening is in some cases when the wire would come up, it would arc against the staple and really sort of weld itself to the staple, only lightly. You could just go along and tap it and it would come off again. But this happened a few times initially, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll fix it just by cleaning it, which seemed to work. But lately it's just happening on a regular basis, and I thought, I can't stand this, I've got to get rid of it and come up with a different system. So I did, and I'll show you that. We'll go out in the workshop and I'll show you what I've done. This is probably a typical example here. So instead of having the reed switch in the track here, what I've done is I've cut an isolated section of track. There's a cut here and there's a cut there, and this is now acting as the trigger for the LEDs, or the switch if you like. So what I've done is that these yellow wires were the common wires for the whole system. So the yellow wire is soldered to the track, and the trigger wire that sets off the LED is soldered to this little short section, 3 sleepers actually, this little short section of rail. So what happens is when a loco comes along and it puts its wheels onto this section, it bridges the gap electrically and it sets off the LED. What also happens now is that any rolling stock with metal wheels will do the same thing. So you get probably a longer action on the LED. It's still, the LEDs are still bridged by capacitors to extend the pulse of them, and but now with this system there's no magnets required, there's no maintenance required apart from track cleaning, which it's got to be done anyway. And to make the system work, because the rail is cut here in 2 places, I've got this brown wire which is a bridging wire, and as you can see it bridges the isolator section there to there, so current still flows through to the whole system. So that's the new deal and it works fine. So that's about all that's changed since last month. For the rest of this video, I thought being Christmas time, I'll show you a bit about how this railway actually works from an operator's point of view. You've seen my videos where I've had trains running and the camera's always down low at the track, and it looks, I suppose, more realistic and impressive because everything looks so much bigger when you've got the camera down close. But when you're in here operating, it's a different story. So you've got a bird's eye, almost a bird's eye view, I suppose, when you're looking at the trains, and so it's a different feel. And I don't know whether you sort of understand all the complexities of this railway and how it works. Being DC analog, it's quite complex, I suppose, compared to DCC systems. That's a point I should make too about that rail detection system. It won't work on DCC as far as I know. I think it would create all sorts of problems for DCC systems. So if you're doing DCC, forget about that. you're putting an extra current through the rail, so I think it would just create chaos on a DCC system. I might be wrong, but I think it would. Anyway, yeah, so back to the railway. So we'll give you a bit of an overview of how this thing works, and we'll run some trains, and yeah, let's have a look at it. Right, well, we'll start down here with the main part of the layout, the main line. So this is Great Chesterford Junction, and this is Great Chesterford Junction East signal box. So it controls basically half of the layout in front of us here, and the levers are activated just by, I'll use my other hand, just by pulling the lever to its full extent like that, whichever one you need to activate. So everything is color coded, and what it does, you'll notice I've got blue levers, red levers, orange levers, 1 to 10, and what that relates to is the control panel. Now this is the control panel, and you can see I've got red lines, blue lines, and around here I've got orange lines here, red lines, blue lines, green lines here. So the levers relate to the particular line that they're working on. So you won't see any green levers up here because none of them are activated. So what it means is the red line here is the main down line, the blue line is the main up line, the orange is the branch, and the green is the yard here, which also goes off to two other destinations, Duxford and Newmarket. So Newmarket is my sliding fiddle yard, which is behind me here, and Duxford is cassette system. So that's how they all relate to the panel, and the same applies to the controllers here. The branch is an orange colour, although that looks red on my camera. This is red for the main down, and we've got a blue controller here for the main up, and we've got a green for the yard. We've also got a switchable handheld over here for the yard as well. So to get it all moving, you need to be set up properly in the first place. So to set it up, to get a train happening along here, obviously you've got to have all your points set properly, and you'll send something out from this fiddle yard, one of two fiddle yards, either the main up or the main down. This is Great Chesterford Yard, because most of the levers in here are green. As you can see, I've got one for the branch, which is directly over behind the main station here in the bay platform. And around here we've got another set of levers, 3 greens, 2 blues and a red. So the 3 greens are the yard, 2 blues are the main up line, and the red is the main down line. And we've got turntable controls here as well. So that's the main control area, and then there's the branch controls as well. But if we have a look at the main line first, we'll get something moving. Now what we'll do is we'll bring something out on the main down line. So the first thing we need to do is select which road we want, and you can see here by the LED indicators that we've got green for this road, green down there, and if you follow that, it's green along. So number 3 road here is set at the moment, but what we'll do is we'll bring something out on road number 1. So we first have to change the points. These are electrically operated solenoid points. It's just as simple as that, and you can see that the indicator changes. That one's set, so that's good on green, and then we just have to change that one. Now you'll notice here we've got an amber light next to this switch here. This at the moment means that the road is isolated, and there's a loco sitting in the isolated section which has activated that LED. So what we need to do is firstly make sure that the red controller is not powered up at the moment. And if we look at the red controller, we've got its light on to say that the power is ready for it. However, it's set at 0 power. So the first thing we'll do is firstly unisolate that road. So we've done that, and we've got a little Lima Prairie goods train sitting on this road. So what we'll do is just apply some power to the controller, and that should bring the train out. And this camera is set up roughly at my eye height, and just to sort of give you an idea of what we're sort of looking at when we're standing back. The train's operating around here. I mean, that'll circulate until I tell it to stop in the fiddle yard. So what we might do is now set up another one from the other road, and we'll get that moving as well. So we'll get back down to the control panel. Right, we'll activate road number 5, which is this one. So we'll set the points and we'll make sure the controller is in the 0 position for power. Turn it on. Now this one's a 9F that's coming out, it's the Evening Star. It takes very little power, this loco. It's very easy to overpower it actually. Now we've got our little Lima Prairie circulating at the moment, and it's, as you know, it's running on yard number 1 here, or road number 1 in the yard. And so what happens is, if I decide to stop that running, all I have to do is flick this switch back to off, and what will happen is when the loco reaches this point in the yard, it will hit the isolated section, and that means the power to the loco will stop. So the loco stops, but when it stops on that section, it also bridges the rail, which activates an LED. There's a small amount of current going through there which will activate the LED. So we'll see it stop in a second. You'll see the LED come on. There we are, it stopped. So while we've got 2 trains circulating on the main line, we can also operate the branch. And the branch, I mean, really this whole system is designed to be worked by about 3 operators. But I'm all 3 operators today. So the branch, we have to follow the same procedures with setting the track and everything, and controllers, etc. So there's a controller for Great Chesterford here, and that's our little branch train over there with a couple of coaches with a nice little prairie on it. And that's about to sort of take a journey up to Little Bardfield. But for this section of the line, we work with block instruments, as you know. So it's a matter of corresponding with the operator at Little Bardfield to initially send this train on its way. And so first thing we have to do is call up Little Bardfield. Now Little Bardfield has 2 instruments, and the operator there talks to Great Chesterford Junction, and he also talks to Bamford. So to know which signal box is calling him, there's an indicator light on the top of his instruments, and there's on all the instruments actually. And so for him to know who's calling him, because the bell pitches are the same, we just turn on the power light there. That will light an LED at Little Bardfield. So I'll call him up and see what he says. The first thing we do is 1 bell for to call attention. So, and he'll reply to me. And I tell him that I want to send a branch passenger train, which is 3 beats and 1. Now, if his line is clear and there's no obstructions of any kind, all the points are set and signals, although we haven't got signals yet, he'll reply with the same code, which means that I'm good to go. And you'll notice that he's set his indicator to line clear. So now I'm going to send the train, and what I will do is once I start the train, I will tell him that the train is entering the section with 2 beats on the instrument, to which he will reply and then change his indicator. So the train's moving out of the section. And of course we'll be able to follow the progress of the train by the indicator board up on the wall, or in this case we could just simply look out the door. You can see how the loco's passed over the sensor, and now a couple of coaches have passed over and activated it as well. Then we move on to the next one. So that's actually a longer pulse than I get before. So it depends on the length of the train and whether it's got metal wheels or not. So obviously just a rail car or something, you're just going to get a couple of pulses out of it and that's it. So the train's roughly halfway up to Little Bardfield now. These bars here show me the sections that it's in. That's a wall, that's the next wall, that's the last wall, that's a bridge across the doorway actually, and the receiver has control of the train when it's in between these 2 black bars here. So it's nearly ready to come in. And we'll just stop that there at the station. And the next thing we've got to do is let Great Chesterford Junction know that it's arrived on the block instrument. So our code for that is 2 beats and 1, which means the train has cleared the section. So we let them know and then reset our instrument to line blocked. And Great Chesterford will reply with the same code. And that's the end of that transition between stations. Now you'll notice there's a DMU sitting over there in the platform, a 2-car DMU. That's waiting for a road so that it can come round to Duxford, which is just behind Little Bardfield here where we're standing. So we can control that train from here, or we can control it from the other side over there, Great Chesterford. The one track between the 2 is has 2 controllers on it. So what we'll do is control it from here. So I'll make sure the roads are set over there first and for it to travel, and then we'll show you it coming in to Duxford here. Right, we're going to use the Duxford controller. This is a very small pulse wave modulation controller, and we'll switch that so that it's on, and we'll get ready to bring the train around. Okay, everything's all set to go now, so we'll just apply some power to the rails and we'll get this DMU underway. Here she goes. Into the tunnels. Should be arriving any old minute now. There we are. Meanwhile, we've still got our train sitting here at Little Bardfield, and it wants to proceed on to Bamford, so we'll have to call up Bamford and get some action going there and get it up to the branch terminus. So we'll call up Bamford. And we'll ask them if they can accept branch passenger train. And we'll set our controller and all that sort of thing, and we'll tell them that we're sending the train. and we can follow its progress on the indicator board up the end of the other end of the room. You can see we've entered the section now, so the receiver has control of this section now, and you can see that the train's progressed across the viaduct and it's going up the back wall. That'll be the western wall through Whittington, and then it'll do a big, go around a big curve, 180 degrees, and it'll come up through Little Shelford, through the gap between Whittington and Little Shelford. Yes, it's there now, it's almost with us. And it's just about to come into the room. It's a mainline Jubilee you can hear in the background. I'll show you that in a minute. We'll just get this train sorted out first. Right, this is an old mainline Jubilee locomotive that I've had for about 30 years, and coming around now. They're noisy, but it's still going. Well, folks, that's just a taster of what it's like to operate this railway. It's quite challenging, really, but then again, that's the reason I made it that way, because I don't want things too easy. If it's too easy, you get bored with it, and even just running trains around in a circle, you've got to keep your wits about you, because you know, if you've got your points set wrong in the fiddle yard or something, you can run one train right up the back of the other one, which has happened actually. But yeah, you just got to keep your wits about you, and yeah, that's the fun of it actually. And when you've got 3 operators in here, it's not what I'd call chaos, but it's pretty hectic in here. And yeah, you've got to keep things moving. Whoever operates Great Chesterford here, the main line here, is also responsible for the Bamford branch trains coming and going, and to some extent they've got to keep an eye on what's coming in from Duxford. And also we've got this sliding fiddle yard here, which we haven't really looked at yet, so you can bring trains in from there. So there's trains coming in from everywhere, folks, and yeah, as I say, that's the fun of it. You know, it keeps you on your toes, keeps the grey matter turning over. Anyway, that's about all I've got for you today. So we're not too far away from Christmas, so I hope all of you people have a wonderful Christmas and a very happy New Year, and I look forward to catching up with you all again in January. Take care. Cheers. Gourmet.